always a good sign when you hit the button and it actually starts streaming.
Hi, welcome. This also is going to be linked on our school website, so you can access it there as well. We'll talk about what is dual language immersion, what it is, and why do we feel like we needed this program at MES. We will give an example of a program model, so we'll walk you through how a typical day for your kindergartner might look. With a sample schedule, we have a few different options for parent involvement that we'd like to kind of update and share with you guys, and then there will be a time for questions at the end. Okay, so for introductions, I'm Nicole Scraton, the ELF coordinator. Mrs. Corris is here, she is the elementary principal, and then Mrs. Walker is a kindergarten teacher, and she is on our dual language team. So she's going to be with us throughout this process as well. So to start, we have a short introduction video from the American Institutes for Research. This just gives a nice overview of what a dual language immersion program looks like, just to kind of give us a visual of what we're looking to start in our school.
Muy bien, ¿qué día es hoy? Miércoles, ¿verdad? Ayer fue martes y hoy es miércoles. Vamos a ver qué día de número es hoy. Venga.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
There's been a real increased interest in dual language programming because people see the benefits of bilingualism for both students who come to school speaking only English as well as students who speak a home language and are learning English. So there's cognitive flexibility, first language knowledge and skills, actually enhanced second language learning. Students who are bilingual are more competitive in the marketplace and just generally more able to communicate on a global level. Most of the studies that have been done looking at English-only programs compared to bilingual programming find that the children instructed bilingually do as well as the children instructed only in English, or they outperform those children. And the interesting thing is they outperform them in English literacy skills. So we have just completed a report that is about current state policies and practices related to dual language programs. This report started by looking at federal policies related to dual language programming and the historical context. Then we looked at the characteristics of dual language programs, identification and reclassification procedures, assessment and accountability provisions, teacher preparation, professional development, and finally we looked at state support for dual language programs.
And I love that you figured out your AI vowel team. That was a tricky word, right? How did you figure out that word?
Basically, there are two main kinds of dual language programs. There are two-way dual language programs where there are two groups of students, a group of students speaking English and a group of students speaking a partner language. We also have one-way dual language programs where we've got one group of students learning two languages. Generally, students are learning their home language or partner language at least 50% of the time. And this is one of the features that really distinguishes dual language programs from what we generally call transitional programs. That is, children are learning two languages and the idea is that both languages are developed and maintained. In transitional bilingual programs, what generally happens is students might start out learning one language or two languages, but fairly quickly transition into only English.
¿Cuántas unidades hay aquí, Christopher?
There are many benefits to these programs, but there are challenges with regard to implementing them. One challenge is finding teachers who can teach in the partner language and know the language as well as the content in that language. So states have had to, for example, set up partnerships with other countries where they import native speakers of a language to the US to actually teach in that language. Another challenge is finding textbooks in the partner language, especially textbooks that are aligned with state standards. And a third challenge is that many states provide additional funding for students who are English learners, but not for students who are English proficient. So when you've got students who are English learners in a program and they become English proficient, generally additional state funding isn't available. And it's also not available for students who begin the program as English proficient. In terms of key takeaways from the report, one really is that we need more information about policies and programming at the district level. Districts are implementing these programs, and we have a lot to learn about how the districts are meeting challenges related to dual language programming, and we really need to attend to these challenges in order to increase the number and quality of dual language programs.
Tapamos la palabra y la dividimos en sílabas. Jugo. Jugo. Muy bien. Ana. Monty.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second webinar in a series of 4 webinars on bilingual dual language education. The topic.
You want that? Okay, that's what I thought.
No. Okay, so that video just gave us a quick introduction on how a dual language classroom could look like and some of the research that has been done regarding those programs.
Muy bien, ¿qué días
So
son?
it's gonna do it again. Okay, so what is dual language immersion? In the program, we will see a classroom having 50% of the day in English instruction. The other half of the day will be in Spanish instruction. And in our program, we will align all of our content to the state standards, and we are going to follow the Utah model. And I'll explain that a little bit more in just a moment. For our teachers and staff, we will have one English-speaking teacher that will be in charge of the English instruction, and then there will be a Spanish-speaking teacher that will be in charge of the Spanish instruction. For students, after the application process, we will inform families of who is in the program, and then the goal is that they will stay in that program throughout elementary school. So research supports that staying in the program over a long period of time has the most benefit. So the goal would be that this is not just kindergarten year, but that it's going to continue throughout elementary school. So there are lots of benefits to dual language, but the ones that we've really focused on for our district would be the bilingualism, biliteracy, and biculturalism that it provides, high academic achievement, and then sociolinguistic competence. And we just feel like those areas will help our students become successful in the 21st century and in the workforce. When we look at current research with current English language learners, so students who are enrolling who speak a language at home other than English, the dual language model is shown to be more successful than our typical pull-out or content programs. And through the strategic plan, when we really reflected on how our programs were set up, this is one area that stood out to us that we could really be looking at a new and different way to teach our English language learners, and it's also supporting all of the students that would be enrolled in this program. So we did an interview with a family locally that's a part of a dual language program, and they were able to give us some feedback on their perspective on being in the program. And then we had a chance to talk with a kindergartner about their thoughts on being in the program. So we have a short video that we put together. This is also linked on our website, so you can view that there as well.
I'm Amy Corris, and I'm the principal here at Manchester Elementary School. And I'm excited to announce that we are starting a dual language program in kindergarten for the 2021-22 school year. Students enrolled in the program will have the opportunity to learn English and Spanish, Our goal is to have students become biliterate and bilingual in both languages by the time they leave the program.
As the EL coordinator, I'm excited to start a dual language program at Manchester Elementary School because it will provide our Spanish-speaking students an opportunity to become biliterate in their native language, and it will allow them to have an advantage in the workplace when they leave our school district. I'm also excited to have more bilingual teachers in our district to be able to interact with our students and our teachers.
Hi, I am Dawn Walker, and I am excited to be one of Manchester Elementary's dual language kindergarten teachers. I am excited to get to meet you and your student. I cannot wait to build a relationship and us to have an exciting school year. This is Leanna, and she is a student that participates in a dual language classroom, and we are here today to ask her some questions. Leanna, what is something that you like about your classroom?
That I have a lot of nice friends and they are really kind to other people.
Leana, ¿qué te gusta de tu aula, de tu clase?
Me gusta cuando mis amigos juegan conmigo.
What is your favorite subject in school?
My calendar time.
And why do you like calendar time?
Because every person in the whole class gets to have a turn going up and choosing other people, and I feel like it's really fair to the class so they can have a turn saying what they're supposed to say at calendar.
Thank you.
Leana, ¿qué es su sujeto favorito en la clase?
Mi favorita es cuando jugamos unos juegos que están muy divertidos.
How often do you speak Spanish at school?
Every single day I do.
Thank you.
Leana, ¿qué tan frecuente hablas español en la clase?
Todos los días en la clase. I think this program is really good because some kids get to learn a lot of Spanish and English, and this is one of the ways you can learn a lot of cool languages, and you can learn more things every single day you go to school. Creo que este programa es bien porque las niñas pueden saber cómo hacer nuevas palabras todos los días y puedes aprender más todos los días.
As parents of a bilingual student, we're really excited to have her in this type of a program because I think it's important to expose them to different cultures and different languages and just give them the opportunity to be able to interact with people of all languages.
Creo que es una gran oportunidad para todos los niños del área de aquí local de Manchester aprender un nuevo lenguaje también, y los que no son vecinos también tener la oportunidad de aprender un nuevo lenguaje, ya que este tipo de futuras generaciones pueden interactuar entre sí y darles una oportunidad también a las nuevas generaciones de este país tener un amplio conocimiento a nivel cultural en este país que es grande y lo hagamos más grande cada día más en América.
Okay, so for our program model, we are looking to follow the Utah model. So this is how our schedule will be set up in kindergarten as well. So we're going to look to teach math in the target language, which will be Spanish. The content areas would be science, social studies, will also be in Spanish, and then the target language literacy, we will be focusing on specific vocabulary and some of the fundamental pieces of the language. And then the second part of the day, when they are with their English teacher, they will be having English reading instruction, and then they will have math and science social studies reinforcement on specific vocabulary. One thing to note with this model, the kids are not learning one lesson in English and the exact same lesson in Spanish. It is a separate model, so when they are with their Spanish teacher, they are getting their math instruction, and then we will do some of that reinforcement as needed during the English time of their day. But during the Spanish speaking portion, that time is going to be strictly the Spanish language. Here's an example of how grades 4 through 5, how their minutes are divided throughout the day. There is a shift in when the Spanish language will be taught in the ELA block, and that happens in the upper grades. And same for 6th grade. So we will quickly talk about some things that they can provide. It's recommended that a minimum of 6 years of bilingual instruction. Research has shown that having at least 6 years shows the most benefit and the most growth in developing that bilingual, biliterate student. We will have a focus on the core academic curriculum. We're not going to be watered down or simplify things. We are going to maintain our same rigor that we have with our scope and sequence and the expectations from the state in this program. It will be the same material, just in 2 languages. We will have a high-quality language arts instruction in both languages, and we will integrate that into different thematic units. We've touched on the separation of the 2 languages. We're not repeating material or doing the same lesson 2 times. And then the use of the non-English language for at least 50% of the instruction time. That is really important to have a successful dual language program, and that is our goal in starting this program, is that we will commit that 50% of Spanish instruction time. Also, 2-way programs can provide an additive bilingual and we have the full support of our school administrators, teachers, and parents. It promotes positive interdependence among peers, high quality instruction, and opportunities for parent engagement, which we will touch on in just a little bit. So a sample schedule for the upcoming school year. Class A will be our first one that we'll look at. So from 8:30 to 10 o'clock would be the literacy block. That is a normal time that current kindergartners have. From 10 to 10:30 will be the RTI or enrichment time. Then they'll go to recess. When they come back, they will have that content and math reinforcement in English as needed. And then they will break for lunch and recess. They'll go to specials, and then in black, that starts the Spanish portion of their day. So their content is now being instructed in Spanish. That will include the math block, recess, and then when they come back in, science. Class B would be the other group of students, and you'll notice that the schedules are just flipped. So if your child is in Class B, they are starting the day with the Spanish-speaking teacher. They'll go through their day, and then they will finish their day with English instruction. So your child would be in Class A or Class B, but that would be the model that we're following. Does anyone have any questions on schedules? Or how that could look? No? Okay. Parent involvement. How can you support your child? So we have a few ways that you can continue to be involved with your child's education. Of course, all of the normal things that we're doing at MES. But in addition to that, as parents of the dual language program, we're going to be providing specific opportunities for you all to be engaged in your child's education. So we will be forming a parent committee with parents from the dual language program, and then administrator, myself, and some teachers. We will get together and form a committee just so that we can continue to hear feedback and improve our program as we're going through our first year. There will be opportunities to volunteer or come into the classroom. We will have a family night, a bilingual newsletter, and then lastly a book study where we can look at some of the research together, look at how dual language programs have been successful, and give you an idea of why dual language education is being started in our district. That is just some of the options that you would have to be involved if you choose to be in our program. And then lastly, I've started linking some resources. We will continue to add to this document so that you can check back and see any additional information that you would like to have as you're making your decision for next year's placement. Does anyone have any questions for us that you have about the program or something that I didn't cover? Yeah. So right now, the plan is to have the instruction in English just as is, so their special schedule will be a part of the English time. Yeah, PE we have the option to do in Spanish. Good question. Yeah. So when we look at our proposal, we have enough spots for 45 students. So we will have up to 45 in the classroom. We want to make sure that we're keeping class size small and consistent with the other kindergarten classes, so we don't want to get much over 45. But included would be a kindergarten assistant, just like the other classrooms have. So in the Spanish speaking room, there will be a paraprofessional that speaks Spanish.
When they move on to first grade, will the teaching be split or will it be?
That's a good question. So our plan is to continue to add each year as this class moves up. Typically, in surrounding dual language programs, the teacher stays in that grade level, and then a new teacher, they would move to a new teacher in first grade. I'm sure that there's always an opportunity to move around, but typically in the programs that we've observed, the kindergarten teacher stays in kindergarten and then they have a new teacher moving forward.
How does it work if you decide at a certain point that you don't want your child to be?
Yeah, so there. Sure. So the question is, what do we do if we enroll in the program and then we find that we do not want our child in the program anymore and we want to move them out, correct? So part of the process will be just having an exit conversation, like what challenges do you see, what are your concerns, so that we can try and address those concerns. One of the things that I think is important to remember, students in the dual language program have the same opportunities as all of the other students at MES, so if students aren't showing growth in a certain area, we're still going to address that and put our interventions in place to make sure that they're showing growth in kindergarten. With that said, though, there would be an exit process. So if you're like, no, I want my child out of the program, then we will work through that process, and we can share more about that in the future. Do you have anything to add?
No, just that part of the commitment is that you really want to commit for 6 years. So if you're on the fence, I would say come talk to me about it or Nicole, but we really, this is not something that you can take lightly because, especially if we get to the point where we're on a waiting list, you don't want to take a seat to someone that's really dialed down, so.
Yes.
In that same if they get to the point where there's too many people applying, or is it just going to be a random pick, or are they going to interview for attention to that?
No. So we basically take it out of our hands and give it to someone, and then they will pick the 44, 45 kids. That's how other districts do it, just so that there's not favoritism and all of that. So we just want to, make it fair for everyone. So we're not there yet, so.
Just out of curiosity, will the classes be trying to structure, we have 23 kids or whatever, 10 of those are native Spanish speaking and 10 are native English speaking, so they can help each other out, or?
Sure. So currently in our district, we have about 7% students who are Hispanic and Spanish speaking. So we don't have the numbers currently to support a true 50-50 model. which is why we have our immersion model the way it is. But the hope and the idea is that yes, there will be native Spanish-speaking students in the classroom as well as English-speaking students. It just might not be 50-50, but yeah. Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions? Sure. Yeah, so the question that was asked, how dependent will their grades be on the second language being learned? If they're not able to pick up that language, will they be stuck like in that spot? So to answer your question, when we are teaching in a dual language classroom, and to any student that's learning two languages, we always want to look at best practices, and our teachers will be trained in that. So when we look at a student who is having a hard time on a lesson or content or whatever it might be, we have a process put in place to make sure that that student receives the interventions and the support that they need. So that student will go through the same intervention process that any of our other students have, and we will look at what is causing that difficulty for the student and then making sure we have the support that they need. So if you look at our sample schedule where it has math RTI, that's the time where those interventions will be taking place. So we're going to be able to give them the additional instruction that they need to make sure that they're being successful. Does anyone else have any questions?
Yo sé que es difícil para ustedes este nuevo proceso, pero los niños lo hacen como un juego. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Yo sé lo difícil que es para ustedes, pero los niños lo hacen como juego.
Yeah. So she was saying that I know that learning two languages can be difficult, but that is something that children are able to do.
Y lo importante aquí es que ellos van a aprender para dejarles algo para el futuro.
And that the important thing is that they're going to be learning something that will help them in the future.
Porque lo único que les vamos a dejar a nuestros hijos es la educación, y con ello ellos van a conocernos, a nosotros de hispanos.
So the one thing that we can leave our children with is education, and that they will know Hispanic families too.
Y así van a ver que nosotros no somos malos, solamente venimos a echarle ganas, a mejorar. Yeah, and I think that touches on some of the global and cultural competence that we talked about in one of our goals for our program, is so that we can really create an environment that our students are learning about the community and learning about different cultures and having that inclusion. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That one slide in that graph,
Sure.
was showing, the dual as being the highest. What exactly was that?
Sure, that's a good question. So as I mentioned, I am our district's EL coordinator, so I work with students who are learning English as their second language. And so when I went through the strategic plan and when we went through the strategic plan and we looked at different models on best practices, one of the things that stood out to us was the dual language immersion model. And then when we started talking to other districts and other schools, like what are you doing for your program, we started seeing that dual language immersion was a way to provide this language instruction in their native language, and allowing our Spanish-speaking students an opportunity to become biliterate in their language. And so this chart is looking at English learners. When you look at just kind of typical ELD instruction, English language development instruction, the pull-out model is used in red. And so you will see like part of our plan is in pull-out instruction. And so when you compare that chart compared to a one-way immersion and two-way immersion, our English learners are much more successful in an immersion program than in a pull-out English language development instruction. So it would be a group, our students who speak a language other than English, they would have time in a small group to focus on English instruction. So that model is not effective as an immersion model. Does that help to answer that? Okay. Yeah.
You were talking about like the parent involvement. And so I guess for me, like I know there's like stuff and parent committee, but how can I, as someone who hasn't taken a second language since graduating from high school, it's very minimal, remembering that support my kids. Like, so when you say like science is going to be taught in Spanish, I'm a science teacher, and so it's like, how can I, or as a parent, is there going to be also, I guess, lessons for us available to support our students at home?
Sure.
And make it more of a family practice?
Yeah, that's a great question. Do you need me to repeat the question?
Probably.
Okay, so the question that was asked is how are we going to support our students in Spanish at home if we don't know Spanish?
English.
Sure, and then English and if you are a Spanish-speaking family. So to answer your question, one of the things that we're looking for in dual language teachers is the willingness to communicate with parents, right? And so the classroom teacher will be able to help support you and how you can help your child at home. And that's something that the teachers at MES do, right? We have parent involvement, and so it could look different at each grade level, depending on the grade and the teacher and the material being taught. But one of the things that we want to make sure that we're doing is having our instruction time half and half. So when we start looking at homework and things like that, that's a conversation that will be had, is making sure that there's time in both languages. And so to answer your question, I think teachers are always willing to communicate with families. How exactly it will look probably will depend on the teacher and the grade and the content. But I would foresee some parent involvement, communication through newsletters or through our parent group so that we can make sure that we're supporting our children at home. Yeah. Sure. So as we've been through the strategic plan, that is something that we have been working on. The state of Indiana does support dual language immersion programs, and they have grants that are available. So that is something that we are currently working on. But there has been that commitment from our state to support programs. In addition to that, we're working with a consultant from IU who also works with the state on making sure that we are setting up a dual language program that models best practices so that we can have a successful program. When we look at textbooks and materials, there are textbook adoption years that come up, so as they're coming up, we're starting to have those conversations. What material will be available for our dual language program, and how can we support that? When we look at how we're currently teaching kindergarten, we have started translating some of those assessments that students will be doing in the math portion. So some of that work has been started. Some of the materials that we currently use for math are offered in Spanish as well. So I think that yes, it can be a challenge, but we're fortunate that we have, our administration is on board, and the state has also shown that this type of program can be successful. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, so next steps. At the end of May, we are going to send out information for all the families who have completed an application. So if you are a family that has not filled out an application yet, or if you would like more information before filling it out, please contact myself or Amy Corris, who's the principal at the elementary school, and we'd be happy to sit down with you and answer any specific questions that you might have. We will send out a parent email for everyone enrolled in the program at the end of May, 1st of July, first of June. So around June 1st, we'll be sending out an email, and then from that point forward, then we'll have an email group, and we'll send out information just like we would any of our other programs. So there will be a dual language parent night where we will go over commitments and handbook and things like that, and give you more concrete information for the program before starting the school year.
Don't need the grant, is still going forward?
Yeah, so that was a good question. If we don't receive the grant, will this still move forward? And the answer is yes. This was part of our strategic plan as a way to try and support our English learners, and as a way to make our students more globally aware and ready for the 21st century. And so yes, our administration has committed to this program. So even without the grant, we are moving forward.
There's applications on the podium. You have to fill one out, or we'll be hanging out. Want to ask us some questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all so much for coming. Please let us know if you have any questions or if we can help out in any way.